We are back. You are chatting with John P. Today, I'm going to be talking about which watch models are the most popular now. Yes, that's a bit of a mouthful, but I'm going to be talking about what watches are very popular today. Now, before you tune out, I just want to say that I'm not going to be talking about Rolex Daytona. I'm not going to be talking about Patek Philippe Nautilus. I am not going to be talking about Richard Mille. Those that are watch collectors, we all know this. If you're new to watch collecting and you didn't know this, yes, Rolex Daytona, very popular. Richard Mille, very, very, very popular, ultra desirable, hard to find. Patek Philippe Nautilus, forget about it. Impossible to find, especially at retail price in stainless steel. So now that we get that out of the way, I'm going to be talking about some watches that have become so popular here at delraywatch.com, where we buy, sell, trade watches pre-owned and also new, that I just did not even realize it. We opened up a section of our website where we sell new watches at huge discounts, sometimes up to 30%, and they come directly from the authorized dealer. And the requests and the purchases that we're getting from this service, I am seeing a serious uptick in a high demand for a couple of models here that I think you might find really interesting, and it also might kind of lend to a supporting argument that maybe these watches are going to dry up and become more desirable in the future. So something to keep in mind, and I want to make sure that I drive home that point. Not only just Rolex. Today on the wrist, Rolex Oyster Perpetual 39. Yep, I'm wearing a Rolex, and I just said I'm not going to talk about it. Sorry, it happens. Another thing that's not quite Rolex, but sort of, is for those watch collectors out there, the diehard watch collectors that know what the Javril Tribeca is. They look like vintage Rolex Daytonas. We just got more than a few of these in, but we only have a few left. They didn't even make it to our website because if you know this cult classic watch, the Javril Tribeca, we got some of these that were actually tucked away in the back of a watchmaker and a watch dealer safe. They didn't even realize they had them in the back of their safe, and they're all new old stock. For example, look at this one. Still has, complete coverings, the tags, the hang tags on the bracelet, the watches. Of course, we have the one that everyone wants, the stainless steel bezel, the one that looks like over $1 million at auction from the recent Phillips auction. Guys, if you know what these are, we have them available. They're not on our website yet. They probably will never make it to the website, so make sure to send us an email at the email on the top of our website so that we can respond to you with what is left, if anything is left at the time of sending this video live to the world. So let's get right into the watches. The first watch that's so hot right now is the white dial Omega Seamaster 300. Now with the Omega Seamaster 300, popular watch model, right? It's a nice watch model. I have one. People like it. But with this white dial, wave dial, black ceramic bezel, I have never seen the demand as high for any Omega model ever. Of course, you have the outliers, you have the Snoopies, you have the Alaska projects, but even those, yeah, they're ultra desirable, but the demand is not as high as we are seeing in the new watch section of our website with this watch. We just started dealing in new watches, I guess you'd call it dealing, and we've had over 6 people complete purchase requests for this watch in less than 2 months. And for one specific reference in a family from one brand, that's pretty rare. There are authorized dealers that don't get this many orders for this watches. Absolutely, even the boutiques. We work with a network of authorized dealers, and they are shocked, as I was, to see that this is happening. So I've never even talked about this particular model, this colorway at all. But now that I see so many people want it, I know that it's on the hot list. It might be a future collectible if Omega decides that, that they're not going to produce anymore. They're going to move on kind of with their product line as they do. But I see this watch so hot right now. And of course, it has the specs as all the other wave dials. And I did videos on them in the past, spec for spec. Sometimes they beat Rolex. But you can watch the video on that, and I'll let you decide kind of what your preference is between the Rolex Submariner, as well as this particular Omega Seamaster. White base, black bezel, very hot, mark my words. Next, we have the Zenith Defy Classic. Now, the Zenith Defy Classic is a watch that's come out in the last few years, and it really hit the industry by storm. Some people said, oh, it looks too much like an Hublot. I get it. It's LVMH at the end of the day. There's probably a lot of design cues that are shared between the same designers, product managers, people that are in charge of the brands. I get it. It's under the same umbrella. There's going to be some similarities, but it holds all the classic watchmaking that Zenith has really stayed true to over the course of time. Even when Zenith was so unpopular in watches in the 90s and into the late 80s, they still stayed true to that classic watchmaking heritage, the way of doing things, and that's even today represented in their watches. And so when you look at something that looks very avant-garde, colorful, like the ceramic versions of these watches, which are so in demand right now, the white ceramic, the blue ceramic, it still has that respectable horology component without any of the negatives that maybe you would have seen over the past so many years with Hublot. I'm not saying anything negative about Hublot, but there's different collectors that are targeted with certain brands, and while there may be some design elements involved with these Zenith Defy Classics, I can assure you they're very high quality, very nice watches, and I think they're priced attractively for their counterparts from other brands with the same specs and also that Genta-inspired, Genta-esque case integrated style. So very hot watch. Move on to the next one, which is the Patek Philippe Aquanaut. This will definitely be a no-brainer for some people. Patek Philippe is very hot. Sports watch Patek Philippe is very in demand right now. But the Aquanaut 5 years ago just didn't have as much demand. It would much less demand than you would see from a Rolex Submariner. But because Nautilus are just completely written off the list of everyone, 5 years ago, it was difficult to get a Nautilus. I'll give you that. But now it's over impossible. Even if you're on that list and it's time for your day, 5, 6, 7 years into the future, it's going to go to someone else. There's going to be someone else. That just seems like what people are thinking right now. I'm not saying that's totally going to be true, but that's kind of the mentality, I think, with stainless steel Nautilus watches for most people retail from boutiques or authorized dealers. And so the Aquanaut at least feels in the market, and based on anecdotal experience with customers, it feels like it's more attainable. And the prices have climbed secondhand, but you can at least still find them, right? You can pay more for them and you can find them. Whereas with the Nautilus, private hands, private deals, good luck finding one. Very nice watch, but it was always kind of viewed as a more younger, contemporary, nouveau junior offering from Patek Philippe. And now it's solidified into a full-featured, very respected watch, mostly because of the demand for the Nautilus, and it kind of trickled down into this watch. I'll talk more about this later. I've talked about it in the past, but this watch is very hot for those of you that perhaps have not considered it. Next, we have the Tudor Black Bay 58 all versions. The blue version just came out. I did a video about it. Very in-demand watch, though I advise not paying over retail for it, and certainly not buying it to flip it and sell it and make more money. There are going to be some people that are probably willing to pay more than retail just out of convenience. But if you do hunt and you do try, I believe you can find it, and I've heard from others that you can find it. But when the blue 58 came out, there was a bit of a resurgence in some demand for the Tudor Black Bay 58 in black. And we've recently seen some calls come in, some emails of either people trying to trade them in or get them out of their collection or looking for one. And that's kind of how I view it, considering all those factors in terms of popularity. Like what does it look like in terms of trading hands in either direction? What is the life cycle of that watch? How many hands is it kind of touching in the conversation? And based on our lead system here, we're seeing a lot of movement in the Black Bay 58 area, so it's very popular right now on all fronts. I don't know what's going to happen necessarily into the future on this. I think it all depends on how the production volume stays with this coming from Tudor. But nonetheless, very popular watch right now. Good spec for spec, and I think that if you pay retail, very fair pricing, so I do recommend it, and of course, it is popular. And lastly, we have to mention Rolex. This is the Batgirl, the Jubilee version of the black and blue ceramic bezel GMT Master Rolex sports watch. Yes, I'm sorry guys. Some people don't like it that it's called the Batgirl, but you just can't call it a Jubilee Batman. That's too much. It needs kind of a catchy, quick little name to call it, a little bit something that you can easily remember the watch by. You have the Kermit, you have the Hulk, you have so many others. It just has to be the Batgirl. It's already been marked down in the history of the watch. And I know some people, they're kind of upset. They're like, why would you call it a Batgirl? It's so feminine. Okay, guys, can your watch not have a feminine name? I don't understand that at all. I get it. Some people want to be very manly. That's their belief. That's their opinion. But it's a watch at the end of the day, right? You're wearing a watch. And so this is the Batgirl, and this watch has seen such demand, I would say, in the last 2 months. I don't really know why. We're getting a lot of questions, a lot of comments pertaining to this watch. We recently took one in and it was gone in seconds, and it was directly from an Instagram post. And that's not happening with all watch models, right? We have Milgauss, we have Submariners, we have other watches, and this went so quickly, and we were priced at market price. We weren't pricing it super low, and it went so quickly. Once again, anecdotally, but we're seeing leads come in, we're seeing emails, and we're seeing people looking and submitting requests for watches that they want, including the Batgirl here. And so I don't know what it is quite that's driving this recent kind of uptick in demand. But nonetheless, I'm seeing an uptick in demand, and it's very, very popular right now. And it seems like it's much more popular than it was almost even when it came out. But what do you guys think? Is there anything here on this list that perhaps you have in your collection? Anything that you'd like to add to the list, remove from the list? I would love to hear it and see it in the comments below. Please do not forget to hit the thumbs up button, like, and subscribe. I really do appreciate it. It keeps me making videos for you, and we'll see you next time. You've been chatting with John P. Ciao.